Good evening, everybody. It is the Safety and the Sportswriter show with Knoxville, Nate, and Big Joe as we get ready to talk to you about the world of sports. Football is back. All the preseasons are happening this weekend. All the teams back in array. The Jets get bad news. We'll see what the Giants are going to do tonight as they take on the Patriots. We also have the classical or the Field of Dreams Classic going on with your Cincinnati Reds and the Cubs tonight, Nate. Kevin Durant is trying to bitch his way out of Brooklyn, and now it's Sean Marks and Steve Nash get fired. His hand-picked coach and the GM who brought him to Brooklyn, he wants them fired. I guess they didn't do a good enough job for him as the craziness of sports go on. And we're going to talk a little baseball plus much, much more tonight. Nate, how you doing?
I'm doing good. My favorite part about this whole deal is that Durant formally requested a trade on June 30th, and on July 1st, he was owed and received an 8-figure check from the Nets, which is one of two massive advance payments that he's scheduled to collect prior to October 1st. So before there's even a game, he's going to collect two 8-figure checks and cash them, which he's already cashed the first, and now he wants out. And it's like, if you hate it so much there, why don't you give them their money back or let them keep their money and go on to the next team. He's done everything. He's done everything except win there. He's complained. He's handpicked the coach. He's handpicked his running mates. He's cash checks. He's done everything except what he said he was going to do, which was win and bring a championship there, which he's not even come close to.
I mean, I'm getting to the point, and I've said this week in and week out. The pendulum now has swung too far. These players have too much say. They've neutered coaches. They've neutered GMs. The owners are just, I really just don't know how to handle. You look at them and go, how did you ever become a businessman if you can let one man who you're paying almost billions of dollars to hold up your whole franchise and tell you just basically give you your middle finger. Say, just keep signing the checks. I may or not play. I may or may not play for you, but I really don't give a crap. That's basically what Kevin Durant's saying. And you look at this guy and you go, man, he's blessed. You can't attack his game for anything. But the more you watch him, and I mean, I'm not a really big basketball fan, and when he was in Oklahoma City, didn't really pay him that much attention to him. Golden State didn't pay him much attention to him. But now I've seen the act now for 4 years. I've seen what he's about. And for a guy that wants to be remembered in the same light of the greats of our game, he's not. There's something missing. He's not a leader.
No, I agree 100%. Think about the teams that he's been on from the beginning of his career. Texas, when he was there, and he was the player of the year in college basketball and the greatest player coming out of the draft. Texas went nowhere.
Right.
They didn't even advance in the tournament. I think they lost in the first round, if they even made it. Then he goes to Oklahoma City, and the 1 year that they actually have a pretty good team and have a chance to get past the Warriors, he chokes when they're up 3-1 and have an 11-point lead. He chokes the game away, and then the next year quits the team and joins the team that beats him and collects a couple of rings. That's the only time that he's ever won any type of championship in his life, is when he was on a team that won a championship the year before he got there.
You go back to his time at Texas, and yes, he was a great college player, but it's shown time and time again, and you and I both love college basketball. I mean, as much as I didn't like him in the pros and everything, man, Carmelo Anthony in 1 year put Syracuse on his back and won a national championship. So great players in college can make big differences if they want to. And they can almost be a one-man show. Danny Manning when he was with Kansas. I mean, there's many examples time and time again of one great player taking good players, semi-great players, and making them champions. And he just doesn't have that in his makeup. He just doesn't.
No, they were 25-10 his lone season in Texas. They finished third place in the Big 12, and they lost in the second round of the NCAA tournament. How do you have the National Player of the Year and finish third in the Big 12 behind Texas A&M? That's
exactly.
That's just a joke, man. And they had a good team.
I mean, I've seen the player of the year in the NCAA be a guy like Jimmer Fredette, and you go, okay, that's a one-off.
Yeah.
I mean, Durant has real skills. Durant is a real player, but he has no heart. He has no heart.
He doesn't make the guys around him better because he doesn't care about making them better. Like I said, they had a pretty solid team that year in Texas. They had DJ Augustine, who's played in the NBA for over 10 years. They had Damian James, who also played. They had the big guy, Dexter Pittman, who was the big 6'11", 320-pound center. I mean, they had a pretty solid team. A.J. Abrams was a point guard, backup point guard who was pretty solid. And, they couldn't get past third in the Big 12.
Who was their coach?
Right there.
Who was their coach?
Rick Barnes.
Yeah. And Rick Barnes can coach a little bit, I think.
Buddy, I am a firm believer in him. I've watched him here for the last, 5 years?
Yeah.
He won the SEC tournament for the first time at Tennessee since 1979 and has had Tennessee ranked number 1 in the country twice in those 5 years. And this program was hurting before he got here.
I saw him take over for Pitino up in Providence and didn't miss a beat. And you aren't going to get the kind of players in Providence that you're going to get at Texas and Tennessee. So, I mean, this guy can flat out coach basketball. So there's something missing with Kevin Durant. I don't know how this is going to shake out between him and Kyrie. I mean, they don't need a coach so much as they need a psychologist.
I would agree with that. I would agree with that statement for sure.
I mean, it's just you can't figure out where either of them is coming from. And right now that, you look at it and the Nets are just going to be another joke going into next season.
Yeah, I mean, we already explained how they weren't going to win a championship before they played one game. I mean, me and you both discussed that the makeup of that team was not set up to even get to a championship final, to a finals. To even win in Eastern Conference Finals. I mean, it wasn't going to happen from the get-go. And then we saw, how they handled everything when Jacques Vaughn went into the bubble and basically coached that team up to where they were the best team with the best record in the bubble. And what did they do? They got rid of all the players and the coach and gave Kevin Durant everything they wanted, and they haven't been any better than that team was. So.
And speaking of high-paid guys, you wanted to talk about it. Mike Trout again, the Angels going nowhere, and Ohtani. I mean, I'll tell you, I have mixed feelings on Ohtani. Nothing against his skill, nothing against his ability, but I don't know. The making him into this sideshow. I mean, they're getting him at a bargain rate. I mean, he's their best hitter and their best pitcher for $8.5 million a year. Which is totally ridiculous, especially when Trout's making 40 and he's going somewhere. I just don't know if it's good to have him. You know what you need? He kind of takes up a spot other people can be playing in. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but you need more players, not less players, and. I don't know if I want to see him just choose one or the other. I mean, be the pitcher full time, and he can still be a pinch hitter at certain points.
Yeah, he's to me is not the problem on that team. I mean, the problem is they're paying $47 million to a guy who rarely plays and is basically been out this entire season with a back injury. I mean, what is the back injury?
He's got
Supposedly,
some
yeah,
congenital thing.
yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. I just, I was kind of against paying that guy $50 million nearly from the beginning. Whenever a team does that, remember when the Texas Rangers paid Alex Rodriguez $250 million before anybody had ever gotten anything close to that type of money, and they never did anything or went anywhere. So I don't know, man. I just think that they're kind of wasting Otani out there, to be honest with you. What he's doing is unprecedented. I think he's kind of underrated, honestly, based on what he's been doing and based on the fact that no one's ever done anything like it ever in the history of baseball. And he's getting wasted out there in Los Angeles, where they're a team that's 49-63 and going nowhere. I mean, it's just a joke to me.
Well, I mean, they just seem to. I don't know whether they're cursed or what. I mean, when they had Mike Scioscia as their manager, they were really, really good for a bunch of years. They were competitive. They were making the playoffs, and then when they start, they go get Pujols, and then Trout comes along. Now you get Otani, and I think they just kind of stop looking for quality players to put around them. And baseball's a grind. You can have the best player in baseball isn't always going to win, because the fact of the matter is it's 162 games, and it's hard to play every night. I mean, even though I understand it next to football, it's not the physical grind. It's still showing up, batting, playing the field, pitching, everything. It does grind you down over an 8-9 month period. So
Well,
I
it
don't know.
doesn't grind him down. He never plays in
Yeah,
162 games. He's
no,
never played in 162 games in his
well,
life.
when you see next year when they get Aaron Judge, after Judge hits 60 home runs for the Yankees, and the Yankees let him, are going to let him walk, because the fact of the matter is he's kind of PO'd that they didn't pay him up front, and so you'll have Judge, Otani, and Trout together.
Yeah, you won't have Trout because he played in 36 games last year, and he's played in 70 games this year, and a lot of times playing DH because he can't even play in the field. It just seems to me like I don't think anything going out in the Angels organization right now is being handled very well, and I don't understand why.
Well, I mean, it's weird. Baseball is a weird sport. I mean, okay, Soto goes to the Padres, and you're thinking, wow, now Juan Soto with the other two players, they got their two young superstars, Machado, they got out there, and the other two young superstar they got, they're gonna challenge the Dodgers. The Dodgers go out there at the trade deadline, they pick up that garbage guy Joey Gallo from the Yankees. Now the Padres are struggling, and the Dodgers are on what, a 10-12 game winning streak. Baseball in a lot of cases just does not make any sense at all, and that's why you can sit there and play it the way fans want and try and get a superstar at every position, and it doesn't work. It just doesn't work with baseball like that. Yeah, it's nice to have a superstar, but you want to have a roster of 25 players that all do their jobs.
Well, I mean, look at Tampa Bay. I mean,
Yeah.
they're the best example of it. They don't have, anything close to the amount of payroll that these other teams do, and yet they compete with them every year.
Name 5 players on Tampa Bay and win valuable prizes.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, I can't. I mean, I can because I watched them play the other night. But honestly, their roster is made up of a bunch of guys that no one else wanted, and they get it done, and they win pretty much every year. Right now, they're third in the AL East, 58-52, and this is one of the worst seasons they've had in the last 5 years.
Yeah. And the other thing about baseball, it's always about pitching. You can talk all you want. I mean, as watching the Mets this year, and I've been watching a lot of the Mets, when you have an ace like Max Scherzer, DeGrom's back now, which makes him even harder to beat. But I mean, when you have a true ace, you'll never go on a losing streak, because once every 5 days he's going to come out there and he's probably if you're in a little bit of a slide, he's going to take you out of it. If you're on a winning streak, he's going to continue it. And you can sit there and all you want to talk about. You want to talk about spending $40 million on Mike Trout. Max Scherzer will strike him out 4 times. Look, Max Scherzer went up against Judge, who right now, hands down, is the MVP of the league, and he struck him out 4 times in one game.
It's pretty impressive.
Yeah. So baseball, you put your money in pitching, and surrounded with good hitting or with good players, and you probably have a good chance. So we will see. Mike Trout, he's gonna. The thing is about Mike Trout is that the baseball purists love him because they look at his stats and they with the new stats they've got, he kind of measures up. I don't understand all the OPS and all that other stuff that they draw into it, and you can't tell me that it's better off when you strike out or hit a home run than to get a walk, a single, double, or triple. I don't get it, but somehow with the analytics of baseball, they've kind of mished it up where he looks good all the time.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I don't know, man. It's going to be interesting to see what happens down the stretch here. That's the one thing I can say about baseball this year is that it's definitely going to be interesting. I mean, you got the Yankees who are 10 games up now in the East. You've got the Cleveland Guardians, which is still so weird to say, who are atop the Central. And then you got the Astros, who are 11 games up in the West. So I think the American League is going to be pretty crazy to figure out who wins the Central and what happens between the Astros and the Yankees. Which of those teams is better? They have almost an identical record right now.
Yeah, but the Yankees are under 500 for the last month. The Yankees have lost.
They're 2-8. They're 2-8 in their last 10 games. That's
I think in the last 30, they're like 5 games under 500 or 6 games under 500. They've been playing lousy the last few months or the last month, and they just lost Matt Carpenter, who was their big pickup. He's going to be gone 6 to 8 weeks with a broken foot. Their pitching is right now not what it was at the beginning of the year. That starting staff that looked so strong has come back to look like the back of their baseball cards now. They're not pitching to that level anymore. And I'm not a big Brian Cashman believer, and I'm not a big Aaron Boone believer. Aaron Boone, I would just once like to hear him say, "My team sucked tonight." I mean, the other night against, I wasn't watching, but I watched the replays of it. Their base running against Seattle was atrocious. They ran themselves out of 5 rallies with stupidity on the base pass. And these are professional players. And that comes down to coaching. That's fundamentals. That's what Aaron Boone should be yelling about instead of trying to intimidate umpires who doesn't like how they call balls and strikes. Maybe Aaron Boone should be spending some time with his players, teaching them how to run bases. Because
they finally did get Rizzo back. I think he got back yesterday.
With a back injury. He was out with a back injury, and they need him back.
Yeah, badly. He's back, and Giancarlo is back in his home on the injured list. So we'll see if he plays the rest of the year.
Mr. Quad.
And he's always got some soft tissue injury. Every time I open the paper, it's like they already have it printed. They just don't they don't press it until they know for sure.
It's like having an obituary for an aging Hollywood star. Just when are we going to put it in the paper? He's injured for 25 days. It's on the 21 day disabled list or injured list. But I'm happy with the way the Mets are playing. We'll see. Big series this weekend with the Phillies, followed by the Braves. They have, I think, 8 games coming up, or 7 or 8 games against those two. And if they could go 5-2, they could probably put themselves out in a comfortable situation and have those guys playing for second place, because that's what they want to do this year. So we'll see what happens with the Mets. They've done what they've had to do, and I'm really happy with the way they're playing. I'll always put down the pinstripes because I hate the Yankees, but what can I say? Let's get around to football, where the Jets without even playing a game, lost it. One a big piece of their puzzle. Mekhi Becton. Talk about a guy who can't stay healthy.
Yeah, I mean, this is just goes back to show you that this was a horrible draft pick. I mean, you had Tristan Wirfs sitting on your doorstep, ready to be selected. You go ahead and pull the trigger on Mekhi Becton, and the guy's missed 2 seasons in a row. I mean, I could have told you that that
He just
Wirfs
too
would be a
big.
better guy. He's
Is
too
he?
big. He's too big. He's 6'9" and 380 pounds.
Yeah.
And when you sit out an entire season and really can't even run, you're going to get bigger. So what happens is he misses the entire year last year, comes back, shows up, he's out of shape. They're trying to get him in shape, but really, because of the shortening of practices and the limitations on what you can even do in NFL camps anymore. There's not really time to get these guys in shape. So what happens is these guys that are out of shape show up and they get hurt. And that's exactly what's happened to him again. I mean, you can't tell me that this guy isn't injury prone when he can't even get out of the second week of camp.
Right.
And he's done. His season is over. So you drafted this guy number 11 overall in the 2020 draft. He plays the first season, and he's okay. I mean, he was about a middle-of-the-pack offensive lineman, but I think he proved to everybody that he wasn't going to be a mainstay at left tackle. That's why
Right.
Robert Saleh and everybody's moved him to right tackle, as you just said, and they were going to try and give him a go over there. And now that's over, and luckily, thank God, Dwayne Brown got arrested at LAX with a pistol in his pocket, because no one had picked him up because he'd been arrested, and they were able to go and sign him. And is Dwayne Brown a little bit past his prime? Yeah, probably. But the fact that he was still available for the Jets to pick up right now is absolutely a godsend to the Gang Green.
Especially when you're trying to get your second-year quarterback on the right page. You don't need him getting beat up like you did last year. So at least you got a professional tackle out there with him to protect him. So that's one good thing they got going for you. Overall, I mean, I think that's the trickiest position to use a high draft pick on, is the offensive line, because you can get the best offensive lineman out there, but if the other four guys are crappy, that's not really going to help you that much. But I mean, I don't know. I see a lot of busts there, but you see a lot of busts at all positions. But I mean, I just find that, at least for me, you're better at looking at tape than I am. So you see the guys that are really, you watch the line play a lot more than I do, whereas I'm watching more of the skill players. Do you find it harder to really get a feel for whose college game can translate to the pros?
It's definitely harder these days because of the spread offense. I mean, you're basically running the read option. Almost every team that plays now, that's what they do. The quarterback gets the ball, he fake hands it off to the tailback, and then he brings it down and he either throws it pretty quickly or he puts it under his arm and he runs it. So there's not that traditional I formation fullback running a play where offensive linemen are, scheming it up and doing a lot of zone blocking, which they do still in the NFL. A lot of times in college, they don't do that kind of thing. So really what you're doing is you're judging how a guy moves. You're basically watching how he pass protects in this spread, sets, and how he's able to get back to a spot, and if he can, keep these guys off the quarterback and maybe open up a hole if they choose to run to his side. But it's definitely harder than it used to be, in my opinion, to judge these offensive linemen. But in my estimation, when I watched him, he just when I watched him, he looked a little stiff to me, and he just looked like a guy that was a mammoth of a man, but somebody where, he looked to me like a right tackle. Okay. Right. You don't draft a right tackle number 11. Do I think you could? Do I think he would have been a horrible draft pick if the Jets had taken him 29 or early in the second round? I'd have been like, hey, okay, this guy's big. He had a pretty good career. Where was he at? Louisville. I could see that, but taking that guy at 11 when you had Tristan Wirfs there at 12, who was a All-American wrestler and a state champion wrestler, just a guy that can get it, who's a tremendous athlete who is proven in Tampa Bay. Hell, they won the Super Bowl with him at left tackle when he was a rookie.
Right.
And he's just gotten better and better each year. So, honestly, this year was the best draft I've ever seen the Jets ever have. But I still look back at that 2020 draft and we're just like, what were you doing? Because now they have a mess. I mean, what are they going to do with him now? I mean, you pretty much just have to let him go. And you've got George Fant still there who thinks he's a left tackle. Is he? I don't know. He played okay there last year, honestly. But I don't know if he's their long-term answer. But what do you do now? I mean, Dwayne Brown's never played on the right side. Do you move Dwayne Brown to the right and leave George Fant out at the left to see if he can have another good season and get a big contract? Because that's what he wants. If you move him to the right, he's going to be pissed off. So it's kind of a rough situation right now, and I'm really interested to see how they handle this. What kind of shape is Dwayne Brown in? Do they insert him right away at left tackle and move Fant to the right? This is what I'm looking to see as we move forward. Obviously, this week, we're not going to know because I don't think Dwayne's ready to play. But in the next 2 weeks, we're going to find out what their plan is because they're going to have to come up with the plan. I mean, the Jets play tomorrow against the Eagles, and then the following week they're going to have to incorporate Brown into their plans and into their offense.
Right, exactly. But like you said, the thing about the Jets, and I've been talking about it for the last couple of weeks. I look at that schedule too, and I go. And this was before the injury with Becton. 2-8 after 10 weeks. I just think they're gonna have a long, hard first half of the season, and I just hope they have patience with Salah and give him a chance to get this thing together. I think they will, and hopefully they'll be better than I thought. Cleveland, who they're right now, I guess Cleveland's talking about now. They're talking about trading for Garoppolo because they're not sure about Deshaun Watson. I mean, what do those guys? Do they have like an astrologist that comes out and reads the tea leaves or something? I mean, this is a team that just seems to. It seems like their general manager, the owner, and their coach go to the bar and start shooting, taking shots and trying to figure out how to run a team.
Oh, I think that's probably pretty. And I have no idea what they're doing in Cleveland, but they're trying to buy a winning team, which doesn't really work. It worked a little bit for Rams. What people don't realize is the Rams drafted 70% of their guys. I mean, they drafted those running backs, they drafted most of the linemen, they drafted Aaron Donald. They picked up a couple of pieces here and there, but a lot of those guys were homegrown. And they also have a hell of a coach, which I'm still not really sold on Stefanski. So we'll see what happens. But I agree with you with the Jets. I mean, the Jets could be a way better team, and they could start 0-6. I mean, they play the Ravens, the Browns, the Bengals, the Steelers, the Dolphins, and the Packers to start the season.
Right.
And then they go Broncos, Patriots, Bills, Patriots. So, where's the victory in there? Where's the win?
I don't know. There's no easy win. I mean, I don't see it. When I first saw their schedule, especially playing the AFC Central 4 straight weeks to begin the season, that is just ridiculous. I mean,
brutal. Who did
the only thing you've done worse to them is giving the AFC West to start their season like that.
Yeah, did the Giants fans create the schedule for the Jets or something? I mean, Ravens, Browns, Bengals, Steelers to start the season, and then they get to come home and play the Dolphins, go to the Packers and to the Broncos after they signed Russell Wilson. So yeah, this schedule is just brutal.
Yeah, I mean, I could see them easily being 1-6, right there.
I could too. I could see them starting the season, 2-7 easy. And playing well at the same time because this draft to me was, like I mentioned, the best draft the Jets have ever had. Ahmad Sauce Gardner with the first pick, Garrett Wilson with the 10th pick overall, and then being able to come back and get Jermaine Johnson at 26 was unbelievable. And I'm like, wow, even if they do nothing the rest of this draft, they're great shape. Well, then they come back and get Breece Hall, the best running back in the draft with the 4th pick in the 2nd round. And then they draft the number 1 tight end, in my opinion, Jeremy Ruckert. And then they still get Max Mitchell, the offensive tackle out of Louisiana Lafayette, and Michael Clemens, the defensive end out of Texas A&M. So all of their draft picks to me were guys that I was very high on, and I think will help this team immensely this year. But with that schedule, it's going to be tough to get wins right away.
Yeah, unless they can translate and kind of adopt the real San Francisco offense and be real run heavy, keep the ball in Zach Wilson's hands as little as possible, make him into Jimmy Garoppolo East. They're going to have some trouble with that. I think they're going to have a lot of trouble with that.
Yeah, they need, and that's why Becton was a big, losing him is huge because they need that offensive line to be solidified because they need to run the ball. They need Breece Hall, they need Michael Carter, they need Tevin Coleman, all 3 of those guys to be running the football and getting some yards so that they don't have to put it all on Zach Wilson's shoulders. But it looks like it's not going to work out as they hoped.
And I mean, and the thing was, if Becton was out there on the right side, I mean, if he's running downhill, run blocking in front of any of those running backs, you're going to get 5 yards. I mean, he's going to fill up 5 yards himself. So, yeah. I mean, that would have been a good position. But let's talk a little bit about the other locker room at the Meadowlands, the Giants, my G-men. I was listening. They had the local radio shows were at a Giant camp this week, and I was listening a little bit to it. It's basically it's the same stories. Can Saquon Barkley rejuvenate his career at this point? Everybody's talking about, well, they won't sign him to a contract. Remember, I don't care about next year. I care about this year. I care about what he can establish this year. I'll worry about if the Giants re-sign him at the end of the year or they don't. Probably smart they don't, but you see how fast. I mean, running backs go downhill, and this is his 5th year. But if he could be anywhere near the player he was his 2nd year when he got 1,400 combined yards, not even as good as his rookie year, but his 2nd year when he had 1,400 combined yards from scrimmage, it would take a lot of pressure off of Daniel Jones. So let's start with Saquon Barkley, and what's your opinion of his chances of rejuvenating? He's a year away from that knee injury, and it usually takes a full year to get back full. And he even admitted on radio here that when he looks at the tape of himself last year, he can see he was babying it.
Yeah, he was. Me and you both called that we didn't expect to see a fully healed Saquon Barkley right away. And we didn't. He didn't look right. I understand their need to rush him back. I mean, it's the NFL, man. It's not for long. These running backs have a short shelf life. So you've got to put him out there and you got to see what he can do. But he just didn't look right all season. And let's be honest, that Giants offensive line is not really the best in the NFL. Now they're playing right now against the New England Patriots. It's 3-0 Giants, by the way, in case you were not watching at home.
I'm taping it for later.
Oh, sorry. Daniel Jones and Saquon are both playing. He's got 4 carries for 13 yards. That's 3.3 a clip. That's not really good. No. But, I think that he should be healthier. I think he should be ready to go. It's just, what are these guys up front going to be doing? Is Andrew Thomas going to take that next step? Is he going to be the guy that they hope he can be? Is Evan Neal going to be able to hold it down on the right side? I mean, they just took Evan Neal and they're playing him on the right and putting Andrew Thomas on the left. And I'm not so sure those two guys shouldn't be flip-flopped. But we'll see. I mean, that he's going to go as far as this offensive line will take him. They've got to open up some holes. They've got to get some push. There has to be some sort of a blocking scheme that's better than what was going on last year, because there really were no holes to run through. Even if he was at 100% and was running hard, I don't know if there was much place to go. I don't know what your thoughts are, but I wasn't impressed with the Giants' offensive line last year.
I haven't been impressed with the Giants' offensive line since Tom Coughlin left. I mean, they just haven't had a good unit. I mean, the Giants, as long as I've been a Giant fan, they've never had a great offensive line man, but they've had great offensive lines that work well as a unit. And that started under Bill Parcells. He knew what to get. He knew he had to get 5 really good players together, and they managed to do that. I mean, Jumbo Elliott was probably the closest to a quote unquote superstar when they drafted him out of Michigan. But for the most part, they were workmanlike, blue collar offensive lines. And that kind of influences me when I look at a draft and I hear about people going out and getting offensive linemen. Why I shy away from it, because I always think you got to get 5 offensive linemen to make it work. So even if Thomas and Neal turn out to be good players and good at their positions, they got to fill in the other 3, and we'll see what they come up with. And now we have to turn our attention to Daniel Jones. I was looking before when I was getting ready for the show, because this, not to compare the 2 guys, it's a different game than it was. But at their stages of their career, Phil Simms was kind of like Daniel Jones his first 3 or 4 years, where he was injury prone, he was mistake prone, and then all of a sudden, in his 5th year, and his first, when Parcells finally trusted him and gave it to him, he came into his own, threw for 4,000 yards that year, and all of a sudden the Giants are off to being a playoff team. I'm not saying that Daniel Jones is going to, replicate that trajectory, but we need to see that kind of improvement in him. We need to see him do something, especially as you pointed out last year, stay on the field.
Yeah, he's got to be out there. I mean, he's missed games in all 3 of his seasons so far. And I think that's one of the reasons why the Giants didn't pick up the 5th-year option. And I think the Giants were smart in doing that.
Yeah.
You've got a brand new coaching staff that's come in. These guys were not on staff when they drafted him. Right. And these guys should be allowed to evaluate him. And Daniel Jones it's kind of put up or shut up time with him. I've kind of had mixed feelings about him. I've seen some times where it's not like Sam Darnold, where I watched him play for the Jets for 4 years and barfed. I've watched Daniel Jones a few times and I've been like, oh, that looks good. Oh wow, he looks a little better. He's reading the defenses better. He's he's doing what he's supposed to do. He's finding the reads that he's supposed to find. And I've seen some instances where I've been impressed. But at the same time, he hasn't been able to stay healthy for an entire season. He hasn't been able to be consistent week in and week out. And that's what you want to see by in year 4. You want to see somebody who knows what the hell they're doing. Right. You want to see somebody who can throw for 300 yards a week and can carry a team maybe when the defense isn't playing that good. Maybe the defense is getting scored upon and the other team's going up and down the field. Well, you know what? If you keep pace and you keep scoring points, it doesn't really matter. So that's what they need out of him now. He needs to be the leader. He needs to be getting them down to scoring points, nearly every time. And that's just how the NFL is these days. It's a score points league, and he needs to be able to get them down there and scoring points. You can't say that he doesn't have any weapons anymore. They've gone out and gotten him some guys. I mean, do they have the greatest wide receiver core in the NFL? No. But let's be honest. They got Kenny Golladay. They've got Kadarius Toney. They got Wan'Dale Robinson. They drafted 2 of those 3 guys, and then the other guy they signed to a big-time contract, and then they brought back Sterling Shepard and Darius Slayton. So this guy's got to get it done, and he's got to get it done now.
Yeah, it's funny. I was going to bring up the wide receiver position, which the one thing is, I'd like to see Shepard get through a season without having to sit out 4 games. Yeah. Golladay, I think he just had an off season last year. Toney has to stay healthy. Darius Slayton is a weird case for me because I remember when they first came up, he was drafted the same year as Daniel Jones, and he was on the second team, and they seemed to have a really good chemistry when they got on the field together. And somewhere they lost it. I don't know if they're not talking. I don't know if they don't work together off the field. But it was almost like they've been strangers for 3 years. After the first year, they looked like they were on the same page. And I'd like to see if they could get back to that. Not to start Darius Slayton, but have him in there as one of the impact players. And if he could be somebody, like I said, I mean, he's got to get in the same page with somebody. You know what I mean? You have to have that go-to guy. Everybody has that go-to receiver um, that that Brady used to have Edelman, Cup with with whoever. I mean, you got that guy who you seem to have a radar lock with whenever the problem breaks down, and that's one thing Daniel Jones doesn't seem to have with with this. I mean, Eli Manning when he used to have Victor Cruz.
Yeah.
Whenever Eli knew that he was going to get in trouble, he knew where Cruz was. Somehow he knew where he was on the field.
Yeah.
And he's got to develop that kind of relationship with not just one, but two or three of those receivers, and he's got to work on that. The one thing I wanted to bring up, which you brought up in about the Giants scoring points, and they can't settle for field goals like they did in the Joe Judge era.
Yeah.
And I don't think they will with Brian Daboll. I think they're gonna get into the end zone, or Tyrod Taylor's coming off the bench and doing some quarterbacking for him. You can't just be an 80-yard quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, they're not. I mean, Daboll's not married to Daniel Jones. He didn't draft him. He hasn't been developing Daniel Jones for the last 3 years. And this guy, he's been brought in to win games, and I think he'll do whatever the hell it takes to win games. And I honestly like this defense right now. I think this defense is much improved. I like the linebackers, Ujulari, Blake Martinez is back healthy, and then they've got Tay Crowder, and they've got Micah McFadden, the rookie, also giving them some depth at the linebacker position, along with Carter Coughlin and Darian Beavers. So I like the linebackers. I like this defensive line a lot, man. I mean, you add Thibodeau to the mix with Leonard Williams and Dexter Lawrence and Justin Ellis. I'm pretty high on this D line. Secondary kind of scares me a little bit, but I think they'll be sufficient enough to get it done as long as the offense can score. So I think Daboll's going to do what he's got to do to win games. And like I said, I don't think he's just going to play Daniel Jones all year to make Daniel happy. I think
Maris happy.
Yeah, or make the Maris happy. I don't think he cares. I think he wants to win games. And hell, with them not picking up that 5th-year option, I think they've proven to Daniel and to the fans that he's got to prove it to them as well as everybody else who watches the NFL.
And I think picking up Martindale as a coach was a good move.
I do too. I like him. I think he got kind of a bum rap there before when they let him go. He was in Baltimore, correct?
Right.
Yeah, and I think he kind of got a bum rap. I liked him as a coach, and I think he's a pretty good defensive schemer. In fact, I thought the Ravens' defense went the other direction when he left. So I think that was a good move, picking him up and bringing him in. And like I said, I like the roster they've got on defense to build upon.
Well, like you said, if the defensive line and the linebackers and Martindale scheming can take the pressure off that defensive backfield where they don't have to hold the guy for 4 or 5 seconds, if they make the quarterback get rid of the ball fast, good things will happen. And put him on the ground a few times wouldn't hurt itself. So that's what I'm looking for with the Giants. We'll wait for my prediction till the end. I usually predict high, but this year I'm kind of low. So we'll see what happens with that. Let's go over a few more of the games that we're going to see this weekend and see what ones you're interested in. We got, of course, the Titans and the Ravens. Your Tennessee Titans and your Ravens. What do you think of that? I mean, I don't think we're going to see a lot of the regular players in those games. Maybe we will. Maybe we won't. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I don't think Tannehill and Lamar Jackson, neither one of them are scheduled to play. But I still am intrigued by this game because I like Tyler Huntley. He's already completed his first 3 passes, and we're going to get to see some of Malik Willis. I've watched a lot of the Titans practice, and to be honest with you, Malik Willis has got some ability. He looks like a guy that can throw the ball. He looks like a really good athlete. He also looks like a rookie to me. It looks like he's a little bit raw with his, just when you're watching drills and stuff, he just, you watch the first 2 guys go through it, meaning Tannehill and Logan Woodside, and then you watch him go through it and you're like, ooh, he's not doing what they're doing. But I think in time he may be good. I think he may, as long as he's good at picking up coaching. I know he's a really good young man, and had some success at Liberty, I think he's got a chance. So I'm interested to see what he looks like out there. He's missed on his first 2 throws, but I think he's got a chance to be a good player, and I think it's good. It's good for Tennessee to bring him in. I mean, let's be honest, Logan Woodside's not going to supplant Ryan Tannehill, but Malik Willis might if Tannehill plays like garbage like he did in that playoff game and they struggle. They've got somebody to go to if Malik Willis proves he can do it. I really feel like the Titans have kind of been wasting Derrick Henry the past few years. I mean, they've got this guy that they can hand the ball off to and get 120, 130 yards a night. They've got a pretty good defense. They've got a great coach. And it just seems like they haven't gotten over the top and they haven't been able to win the big game because of their quarterback play. Now it's kind of like they're losing time here. I mean, Derrick Henry's not going to be able to do this and carry the ball 400 times a year forever. I know he seems like he's Superman, but he still is a human being. At least someone told me he was. And so they got to get it out of him now, man. And I feel like they're running out of chances. They're running out of time. And I feel like they need to do it this year or they're going to be in trouble.
Couldn't agree with you more when you think about it. Houston's a mess. Jacksonville is still a mess.
Yep.
You got to worry about Indianapolis, but that means you should be able to race through that division and get yourself a good spot for the playoffs. So, yeah, you don't want to waste, like you said, Derrick Henry. The next one is the Falcons-Lions, and the only reason to watch this game, and you got to listen to me closely about this, is to see Aiden Hutchinson's sister, who's Miss Michigan. I saw that. Yeah, she's a gorgeous blonde. So if she shows up to the game, that's a reason to watch this game. Other than that, I can't come up with a clue as to why I would watch that game.
I would watch it just because I watch every game. But, the Falcons and the Lions probably are not going to be great teams this year. I mean, I honestly feel bad for Marcus Mariota because, he's done everything right. He never said a word when he got replaced in Tennessee. He went about his business. He did what he's supposed to do. He ended up going to Las Vegas and taking a backup role. And all he did was, do everything he was asked of. And when he got in the game, played pretty well and ended up earning himself another chance to be a starting quarterback. But that being said, we talked about the Jets schedule. You want to talk to me about a tough schedule? Let's talk about the Atlanta Falcons schedule. They open up the season versus the Saints. Then they go to Los Angeles to play the Super Bowl champion Los Angeles Rams. Then they go to Seattle, which isn't that great, but you still are out in the West Coast for 2 weeks in a row. And then they come home to play the Browns, the Buccaneers, the Niners, and the Bengals. So what the hell are the Falcons going to start off with? I mean, I'm looking at maybe 1-7 to start the season if they're lucky. It's going to be a rough go of it, and I feel bad for Mr. Mariota because he's a great player and a great guy, but I just don't know if they've got enough to win a bunch of those games to start the season. What do you think?
I think that his future is going to be the next Ryan Fitzpatrick. He's going to be the guy who holds the position until, the good quarterbacks come around or the good team comes around. I have a bad feeling for him. Yeah. And, it's unfortunate, but sometimes that's the way it plays out.
Hey, don't feel too bad for him. He's making like over $10 million a year, and his family's going to be well fed. So don't worry about that. But, the other question is the team they're playing, the Lions, what are they going to do this year? They've still got Jared Goff at quarterback. I think they've improved at pretty much every position on their team, to be honest. Bringing in Jamison Williams in the draft and having Amon, Ross St. Brown, and DJ Chark on the roster. Those receivers are way better. I think the offensive line is better. They got Aiden Hutchinson in the draft, and they got Romeo Okwara from Notre Dame and Julian Okwara to be, some pass rushers that they can rotate out, as well as Austin Bryant and Michael Brockers. And, I like this team, but once again, just like we said with the Jets, I think that the Lions might be better this year, but may not have that much of a better record. just because of who they're playing and the fact that their schedule is not easy either.
Yeah, I mean, I feel sorry for Dan Campbell. I think he has a chance to be at least a decent head coach, but he's just in the wrong position, totally wrong position, and I just don't see him being able to get a break. I just think that the Detroit Lions team is just it's cursed.
It is, but he had those guys playing their asses off last year.
Yeah.
I mean, he really did. And if he can get those guys to do that again, considering the fact that they've upgraded the talent level considerably, in my opinion, and the fact that they do have some winnable games, their schedules look better than the Falcons and better than the Jets. So if he can get them to play as hard as they played last year, I do think they can get better and take a step in the right direction. But it'll all come back to whether or not that quarterback is the guy for the future. And I just don't think Jared Goff's as bad as some people think he is. I think he can win as long as he's got people around him. He took the damn Rams to the Super Bowl.
Everybody wants, the quote unquote franchise quarterback, but you don't have to have a franchise quarterback. You just have to have a quarterback the team believes in and will follow.
Correct.
And then the rest of it will fall into line. But I mean, these guys are just. I mean, it's unfortunate, but he's going to. I think both him and Dan Campbell. I just think they're in the wrong place at the wrong time. Unless Aaron Rodgers suddenly retires, and we'll see what happens there.
Well, he is taking hallucinogenic drugs, so who knows? He may just decide one day to quit playing football and. Become a shaman. So,
I mean, he just started with the way that guy acted?
No, I guess it was 2 or 3 years ago. But all he did, he took these. He went to Peru, I guess, and took these hallucinogenic drugs, and then he's been the MVP ever since. So maybe he should go do that every year.
Yeah. All right. Then we get the Browns and the Jaguars. I mean, I guess Deshaun Watson, I hear is going to play a little bit.
That's what they're saying. I don't really. I guess. I mean, the question is, when are they going to figure out the situation? I mean, they screwed the Texans overall last year by not making a ruling, and now that here it is, 2022, and we're at the 11th of August, and we're still effing around with this. So I wish they would just make a ruling. Honestly, I thought we were supposed to hear what the decision was at the end of last week, and here it is, going to be Friday tomorrow. And they still haven't, made a ruling on this. But the Jaguars are an interesting team as well, because everybody thinks the Jaguars are going to be, so much better because they got a new coach and it's year 2 with Trevor Lawrence. But honestly, I look at this roster, I'm not so sure it's that much better. They went out and signed who they could sign. They overpaid out the butthole for Christian Kirk. $80 million for that guy is ridiculous. They got your boy Evan Ingram on the roster. I don't know. I'm not seeing it. I think it may be another long year in Jacksonville. It takes a lot of good players to turn around a culture that's been losing for this long.
Yeah, I mean, they're far and away one of the worst teams in football. And then we got Cards Bengals. I don't think I know we're not going to see Joe Burrow. I don't think we're going to see much there. That should be if they meet up during the season somehow, that'd be a great game. But I don't think that's going to be a great game. Any rookies in there you're interested in seeing there?
For the Bengals, I'm interested to see what the offensive line looks like. I'm not sure if they're going to play. I know that La'el Collins was back on the practice field yesterday and started to take some snaps with the team. So I'm interested to see what that offensive line looks like. I mean, it's completely different. They've got Ted Karras, they've got Alex Kappa, La'el Collins at the right tackle, and then obviously, Jonah Williams and Jackson Carman over there on the left side. So I'm interested to see what that looks like. Joe Burrow had his appendix taken out.
Yeah.
And he's going to be out for at least another week or two. So this raises the question again. What happens to the Bengals if Joe Burrow's gone? Well, I can tell you what happens. They go right down the commode.
Right.
They do not have a backup, and we've seen what their coach does when Joe Burrow doesn't play. they lose.
I mean,
So
I forget who was talking about Joe Burrow this week, but I mean, it's true. I mean, Joe Burrow is right up there with Pat Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, the top guys that make their team better.
yeah,
He's right there.
they cannot win without him. But over on the Cardinals side, I'm interested to see how that looks too. I mean, they've made a lot of changes on the Cardinals roster. I mean, they brought in Marquise Brown. DeAndre Hopkins is suspended. He's not going to play the first 6 games. I think we're going to see a lot of Colt McCoy in this game. But I am interested to see what this team looks like with the changes that have been made. And Kyler Murray got the big contract. Can he win games out there? I don't know, man. I'm not 100% sold on him. They don't really have any rookies on either of these teams, and especially on the Cardinals that I'm 100% sold on. I mean, they've got Rondale Moore from last year, who was a rookie who had a pretty good rookie season, and I'm interested to see what he does in year 2. But as far as rookies go, the Cardinals don't have a ton of them. They're going to be playing a lot of veterans. They've got J.J. Watt, they've got Zach Allen, they've got Isaiah Simmons, the second-year guy out of Clemson, Marcus Golden, who's been one of their best guys rushing the passer, and Budda Baker in the secondary. They're going to have to do it with the veterans that they've got.
How hot a seat is Cliff Kingsbury on right now?
I don't know, man. Everybody seems to love Cliff except me. I'm not as sold on him. I mean, you got to think he did take him to the playoffs last year. I think he's kind of married at the hip with Kyler at this point.
I mean, they made the playoffs. I don't want to say he took them to the playoffs because they should have been in a lot better shape than they were going into that playoffs. They were playing their worst football when they wandered into the playoffs.
Oh, they limped into the playoffs. That's for sure. They started the season gangbusters, and then they lost the last 5 out of the 6 games, and kind of backed their way into it. But I don't think that they're going to make a move unless they have a catastrophic season. I mean, I think if they were a 7-win team, I think they'd be looking to maybe move on from him. But if he can win 9 or 10 games and make the playoffs, I think he hangs around another year.
All right, then we get the Jets and Eagles. We talked a lot about the Jets. Any Eagles guys you looking to see?
Well, obviously, my boy Jalen Hurts. I'm interested to see what he looks like. I think this is a guy who continues to get better, and now he's actually got some people to throw it to. Zach Pascal, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith in year 2. And honestly, when I went back and watched the tape of last year, trying to evaluate Jalen Hurts, I've got to admit that I missed Quez Watkins. I don't know where this guy came from, and I don't know how I didn't really talk about him as much, but this is a guy who was drafted in the 6th round out of Southern Miss, and last year quietly had 43 catches for almost 700 yards and averaged 15 yards a catch. He really impressed me down the stretch when he got a chance to play. Because he wasn't really the starter going into the season and really wasn't a guy that they were counting on. But once he got out there, he proved to me that he's got some quicks, that he can catch the ball and that he can run routes. So I think he's a guy that I'm interested to see what he can do with another year under his belt. And obviously we need to see what this defense is. This defense was one of the worst at getting after the quarterback last year. And they've got to do a better job getting home and getting some pressure on the opposing team's quarterback. And that's why they went out and got Hassan Reddick, man. They need Reddick to get at least 10 sacks if they've got a chance of winning the NFC East.
And then the last one to look at would be a great midseason or playoffs. Niners against the Packers. How much Trey Lance do you think we're going to see?
Man, I hope a lot. I think they got to start playing him at some point, right? He's the guy, and they've moved on from Jimmy. I mean, Jimmy's not even practicing with the team. Jimmy is the 4th string quarterback and is over on the side throwing to who I don't know. I guess they have a ball boy over there that he's throwing to, and he's working out. But he's not really a part of this team anymore. So
That's that's why I'm starting to root against the Niners. John Lynch is a jackass.
yeah, no, I'm with you,
I
buddy.
mean, what has this guy ever done that you put him in pro football purgatory?
I don't know. I don't understand it. This guy takes you to a Super Bowl. He backs it up last year when he actually, is healthy enough to play a multitude of games, and he takes you to the NFC Championship game once again. So
Lynch is
what is it
acting like
that
he
what
slept
is
with
it?
his wife.
Yeah, what is it that you hate so much about this guy? He's not only a winner and a guy who takes you deep into the playoffs, but he's also a team guy. All the team loves him. He's never complained once. He didn't say a goddamn word when they drafted Trey Lance. He said all the right things. He's done all the right things. He's still doing all the right things. He's not saying a word right now.
Man, Lynch is treating him, like he's the worst person in the world. And I mean, why? Because he's so afraid he's going to look bad if he goes somewhere and wins. Is that
so.
the insecurity of Mr. John Lynch? That tough hitting safety?
Yeah,
He
he just doesn't want him to go somewhere and take a team deep in the playoffs because if Trey Lance struggles and Jimmy Garoppolo goes somewhere and does well, it's going to make him look like a complete buffoon.
Well, either you have the killions to be a GM and stick by what you do, be a Bill Belichick, and you make moves, and everybody goes, "What the hell are you doing?" And you let the move happen, and you prove you know what you're doing that way. Or don't be a GM, you big wuss. Yeah. I'm not a big John Lynch fan. I really am not. And
I don't really like the guy, but he has built a pretty good team. I mean,
this team, he looks like he wants to take it apart.
If this team doesn't go to the NFC Championship game and beyond, it's a failure because they have the entire team that they had last year and more. They have guys that were injured last year with Trey Sermon and Jeff Wilson coming back, and they've got Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk and Juwan Jennings and George Kittle's healthy and Kyle Juszczyk is back. The offensive line looks good. The defense is lights out. I mean, this team is Super Bowl or bust, and it's all going to depend on this guy's choice at quarterback.
Right.
So,
and he won't make the choice. He won't. Probably for Trey Lance's psyche alone, it'd be good to get rid of Jimmy Garoppolo and not to have him hanging around there.
Yeah, you would think they would have done this months ago because who the hell, where's he going to go now? I mean, nobody. There's not really a team that needs a quarterback. So,
we talk about sports. You talk about a Mike Trout. We talked about Kevin Durant. Here's a guy who just wants to play football, and he's being treated like he's like a plague. I just can't stand. I would love to see the Niners fall on their faces. Next to the Cleveland Browns, I want to see them fall on their faces worse than anybody.
Yeah, I agree. I just don't understand what he did wrong to these guys, and I don't understand why. If you have decided to move on from him, I mean, we said this months ago. If you have decided to move on from him, then move on and let him go somewhere and trade him away and get what you can for him. And try and get out. I mean, they're still paying his salary right now, which is $24 million, and the guy doesn't even practice with the team. He stands on the sideline and throws catch with the ball boy. Yeah. I mean, why are you paying this guy $24 million to play a game of catch? I just don't get it.
Another reason you sit there and you look at the owner and go, "Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? You're going to let this guy pay this guy what $15-16 million just to sit out there in sweatpants and just throw footballs to a ball boy?
$24 million, actually.
$24 million, whatever. It's crazy. Before we find out when we break it up here and we find out what's going to be on man coverage this week, one guy came out in the paper this week. I am not a golf fan, but I was so happy with what Rory McIlroy said this week, where he said, he's sick of hearing these guys that want to play in the LIV Tour, and they also want to play in the big PGA events that pay big money. And he says, screw you. You want to go get that big money? He goes, I don't blame you. Grab it, take it. But why should you be allowed to play in both tours? And I totally agree with him. And all these guys that are banned from the PGA events, the Masters and everything else, that they talk about legacies and they talk about tradition. and how they want to play in those events. You gave that up when you took the big money, which is fine. Take your $140 million and go screw yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I've kind of got mixed feelings on this. They've let these guys play in the European Tour for years and years and years, and then play on the PGA Tour and the European Tour, and play on the Chinese Tour, and play on the play on the PGA Tour. I just think that the PGA is scared that this league actually has a financial backing to where they're getting some of these big name guys away from them, and it's bothering them, and that's why they banned them, and that's why they won't let them play in their events, because they're worried about it. And I think a little competition is good. I mean, I don't understand why the PGA should get to make all the rules and do everything they want to do if there's another league.
It's the PGA's. The PGA groomed their association. They're the ones who took these golfers and put together a tour that made them celebrities and stars and millionaires, some of them in their own right. And it's their right to have that association be run the way they want to run it. They're not saying to these guys that they can't go over there and play. They can go over there and play. But why should they be allowed to jump back and forth whenever they want?
That's what guys do that are playing the European Tour. I mean, guys playing the European Tour, and then they come over and play some events on the PGA Tour. I guess because they have an agreement with them that they're not going to take them. They know that the European Tour is not going to take over the American PGA Tour, so they don't care. But
is the European Tour offering $150 million bonuses, upfront signing bonuses and stuff like that?
No, but I mean, I'm just saying, I've got mixed feelings on it. I know.
You want to take the money, take the money, but it doesn't mean you're allowed to just jump back and forth wherever you want to go and play. I'm sorry, you chose to go play on their tour. We don't have a relationship with that tour. It can't be done.
Yeah, well, they may just start. They may keep losing more and more guys because there's a lot of them taking the money. And you know what? I don't really blame them. I mean, you're supposed to make money for playing golf, and these guys are paying the most. I mean, some of these guys, hell, if you finish last at one of those tournaments, you make $200,000. Whereas some of these PGA events, if you don't make the cut, you make nothing. So I get it.
I used to deal with a lot of these golfers when I was working for the private jet firm. Even the guys like a guy like Jerry Kelly was able to afford flying on private jets. They don't live a bad lifestyle, these golfers. So, I mean, do they get the $140 million up front? No. But then again, let's see what this is like in a year if they don't start getting the sponsors and they don't start getting the TV ratings and they don't start getting the things they're looking for.
Well, Cam Smith has announced that he may be joining the British, or maybe joining. Yeah, and he is he's one of the hottest players in golf, and if he leaves, that's a guy who's not guy that's won majors before. That's a guy who's currently winning the PGA Tour. So if he leaves, I think that might even open the floodgates even more because he just won a major championship a month or two ago. And they've offered him over $100 million to sign with them. So
let's see what the ratings are, because I'll tell you, guys, on this truth too. I don't watch golf. I'll watch the majors. I watch the Open, British Open, and I basically watch the Masters. And I do like watching the U.S. Open. I'll watch like that Sunday, because that's the one place where they have to struggle to, play par because of what they do with the course. And I like watching them, not have minus 17 to win or minus 27 to win. But I'm not a big golf fan. I'm not going to spend my weekend watching it. So it's going to be interesting to see what the TV ratings turn out to be. Because that's where the sponsorships come from and everything else. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, that's true. But they've got, they've got the money backing them where they don't really need the sponsorships in the beginning. If they can get enough of these guys to come over and join the league, people will watch.
Yeah, but eventually these guys are in this to make money. I mean, even these Saudis are in there just to make money. So, I mean, if they're not getting if ESPN, even though I know ESPN's a whore and they will sign them, I mean, CBS, these big networks are not going to stand there on principles and start talking about 911 and stuff. If it means ratings, they'll give it up to sign them. I understand that, but if the other thing is like golf is a very niche. There's certain people that watch golf, and I mean, there's not that big a crowd. Where the NFL, everybody watches the NFL. Some people watch golf. Some people don't care what goes on with golf. So
that's true. I'm just saying, if they get enough of these guys to join their league, I mean, people watch it because they want to see the best players play, and they're starting to sign up a lot of the best players.
Yeah, the whole thing is with golf, it's like it depends. It depends. It might open up the field with these guys going for like a Jordan Spieth to get his career back online, and Jordan Spieth's much more popular than a Dustin Johnson or some of these other guys that have gone over to the LIV tour. I mean, Rory McIlroy starts winning some majors again and starts putting his name back on these trophies. Much more popular than Dustin Johnson and some of the guys that went over there. Patrick Reed, those guys are very unpopular. Bubba Wallace, not a real popular guy. I mean, we're not a fan favorite, whereas like a Spieth or a Rory McIlroy is a fan favorite. I mean,
yeah. Problem is Rory McIlroy never wins the big tournaments. He always
but with good guys, with the guys that are going, he'll have less competition. He might start winning.
Hey, maybe so. That's his only hope.
Well, there you go. So who we got on man coverage?
Oh, I don't know, but I can tell you that last week we had one of my all-time favorite players, Brian Roll, on the show. So if you missed that, go check it out. Brian Roll was the captain of the Buckeyes for 2 years, first team All Big Ten linebacker, and played for the Philadelphia Eagles and also played in Canada for the Toronto Argonauts. Is the relative of Myron Roll, who played for Florida State and then the Tennessee Titans, and is now Dr. Myron Roll because he's a neurosurgeon, and Samari Roll, who played for Florida State and then played in the NFL for years, and also Antrell Roll, who played for your New York Giants and
won
also
Super Bowl
for Miami Hurricanes, won the Super Bowl for the Giants. And then he's also the cousin of Chad Johnson, Mr. Ocho Cinco. So Brian Roll's got a lot of family members who played in the league.
That would be an interesting 4th of July picnic to attend.
That's what we were talking about in the show. I was like, man, what is Thanksgiving like with you guys? I'm like, damn, I'd like to play in that game. Maybe I wouldn't, but it was cool catching up with Brian. He had a lot of good takes on college football and how it stands and what he thinks about this year and what he thinks about Coach Day and the Buckeyes. So check it out in case you missed it. Brian Roll from Ohio State on the show from last week.
All right, people, have a good weekend. I'm off tomorrow from my regular job. Thank God. It's a good day off, so I don't have to do anything really. No big plans, but a day of relaxation. You're getting ready in 2 weeks to go to the beach?
Yes, I will be gone starting on the 22nd of August, and I'm taking that week off, and I'm going to do not much.
That's always a good week, you and your family. So
yes,
enjoy
sir.
your daughter down by the water.
Yes, sir.
All right, everybody, have a good weekend. Stay safe, and we will see you next week.
Adios, amigo.